Imagine if Ibn Sina never existed. As we know, he was one of the greatest scholars who ever lived. He made lots of contributions in many fields such as mathematics, astronomy, physics, medicine, and philosophy. He's called the father of modern medicine and scientific thought. In fact, his impact was so huge that if he had not existed, we would still be living in the dark ages. So let's find out more in today's episode. Imagine if Ibn Sina never existed. Well, first, let me ask you a question. Can you imagine how the world would be like if Google never existed? I bet it would be much more difficult to find information, since you have to go to the library and read books, right? But what if we take it one step further? What if we assume that there is no internet, no smartphone, no electricity, and even no modern medicine? Sounds crazy, right? But that was exactly how the world was when Ibn Sina was born in 980 AD. There were lots of stupid people out there who claimed to be doctors, but actually they knew nothing about medicine. They spread their misinformation and people believed them because they had no other sources of information. There was no cure for diseases and everything was related to supernatural stuff. It was so bad that if someone survived an illness, people believed that it was because of a miracle. And that's why when Ibn Sina was just 16 years old, he decided to change all of that. He dedicated his life to find the causes of illnesses and look for solutions based on rational thinking instead of relying on superstitions. At that time, this was something totally new and revolutionary. After years of hard work and dedication, Ibn Sina managed to collect all the knowledge that was scattered around the world and wrote the canon of medicine. This book was so comprehensive and accurate that it became the standard medical text throughout the world for nearly 600 years. To give you an idea of how important this book was, it was even used by the famous physician and philosopher of the Enlightenment, 18th century, William Harvey, who discovered the circulation of blood. Unfortunately, this great man never got the recognition he deserved during his lifetime. His name was Latinized to Avicenna, and his amazing discoveries were attributed to other Western scholars. However, truth will always prevail. And nowadays, we know who really deserves the credit. But, wait, there is more. If Ibn Sina had not lived, we would still be living in a world where the earth is flat. That's right. Back then, most people believed that the earth was flat and the stars moved around us. Ancient Greek philosophers believed that the sun and the moon were gods, as they thought that they were being punished or favored by the gods depending on how good or bad they behaved. So whenever something bad happened to them, they blamed it on the gods. When Ibn Sina came along, he changed all of that with his astronomical observations and calculations. He showed that the earth was a sphere and that the sun and the moon were not gods. His views were considered heretical, and he was even put on trial for that. But the truth is that he was right. And we have all the technology we have nowadays because he dared to go against the status quo. So now you understand how important this man was. But here is the big question: why don't we know about him? Well, the reason is simple. After Ibn Sina passed away, in 1037, his ideas continued to spread throughout the world and had an impact on every field of science. However, during the Middle Ages, Europe fell into darkness while the Muslim world continued to shine the light of knowledge. That's why many Western scholars built upon the knowledge of Ibn Sina without giving him credit. Even though he was forgotten, his legacy lives on. We can see his impact on everything from algebra to chemistry, from astronomy to medicine. So what can we do to honor his memory? Well, first we can start by spreading the word and telling his stories so that future generations will know about him and other great Muslim scholars. Second, we can continue to build upon his legacy and use his scientific method to find solutions to the problems of our time. Finally, we can be inspired by his courage and determination and never give up in the face of adversity. Thank you for watching and see you in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video.